All right.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first of our Zoom events here, the School of Music. We're going to be having twice weekly talks with various faculty members on various subjects to both try to help our incoming students transition to the School of Music and also answer some questions for our prospective students, those students who are looking to join us either for this fall 2020 or for future falls. One thing we're going to be doing toward the end of our discussion is opening it up to questions. So at any point, if you have a question, feel free to throw it into the comments and we will make sure we get to it. My name's Jesse Koza. I am the coordinator of music outreach with the School of Music at Wichita State University. And today I am joined by Alexander Sternfeld Dunn, Dr. Alexander Sternfeld Dunn. He's the director of the School of Music and a composer in his own right. Welcome. Hello, Alex.
Thank you.
Uh, so we're going to run this sort of interview like. I've got a bunch of questions that hopefully will cover a lot of the information that people are looking for. Today's topic is just basically an overview of the School of Music. And so I think the big thing, the big elephant in the room right now is COVID-19. So are you able to talk a little bit about what the School of Music, what Wichita State is doing, how we're getting ready for fall classes and COVID-19?
Yeah, great question, because it's certainly something that's on my mind and on the minds of, I think, every music educator, maybe in the world right now. So I think I want to preface everything that I say as to quote our dean, at this moment in time,
Yeah,
right?
certainly.
As things change and develop, who knows where we might be in 3 months. The first thing I want to just state emphatically is that the safety of our students and the faculty are my primary concern.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever we do, we want to do it in a way that keeps our students as safe as possible, and our faculty, and me. So that's really the viewpoint in which we're trying to make these decisions. I think that what we will end up seeing is that a fair amount of our lecture-based courses will be delivered in some virtual format with the potential of some physical classes as well. But when the classes do meet face-to-face, that they will be done in a way that we can practice safe social distancing, that PPE will be made available to students who don't have it, that we may ask for them to wear masks, for instance, and those kinds of sort of safety precautions. But I'm trying to encourage my faculty as much as possible to start thinking now about what content could be delivered online and what content needs to be done face-to-face. Applied lessons, I think in most cases, will be able to be delivered online, or sorry, face-to-face until, because it will be easier to practice social distancing, unless something changes between now and then, now and the start of the school year, which would not allow for safe transmission. Sorry, that's not the word. That would allow for a safe environment for the delivery of those lessons. I will say, well, if you talk to our faculty who are delivering online lessons right now, as every other university in the country is, that no one thinks it's the way that they want to do it, but our faculty have risen to the occasion in some pretty astonishing ways. And some faculty have really actually found some advantages to it. So for instance, our trumpet professor, David Hunsicker, he and I were talking, and he said, what's been interesting watching them on the camera is that I'm able to see the way they're holding their body in a different way than when we're sitting in a room together. So now I'm able to sort of adjust some technique things that I haven't before. And I even know, a retired emeritus faculty and the previous School of Music director, Russ Widener, used to use video all the time in his lessons. Video your embouchure and show them, can you see this? So I think the faculty who are delivering right now lessons online have found some creative ways to deal with that barrier. We all know it's not the optimal scenario for applied learning, but it's what I think we're managing. I also say I think one of the other really cool advantages is that a lot of faculty have used this time to like bring in guests from all over the world to just like zoom into a session with their class and say, hey, here's one of our alumni, or here's someone who's the principal of this orchestra, or um, I know, for instance, I think it was Professor Alan Held brought in a couple of his colleagues, world famous opera performers, just to talk about their careers. So I think we're looking at other things that we can bring into the apply the lesson.
That's great.
So
It's very exciting.
and I will let me just sorry one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I could just wax poetic about COVID-19 forever.
Hopefully not.
The other thing that I think is really important to state is that we are also relying on our colleagues across the country because our situation's not unique. And so I think a lot of universities, well, a couple of universities have already made the decision to be 100% online next year. And so, we're trying to, I think there's been a community where we're all sharing best practices and developing ideas about how to best deliver some of this content. So we're relying on each other.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Good to know Wichita State's not looking at transitioning to an entirely online school for the future. But we'll see what comes of that. So the next few questions are really geared more toward our incoming students, those students who have auditioned for us or plan to audition for us in the very near future. So the biggest question that I get is just, did I get a scholarship? Can you walk us through any amount of the scholarship process, especially what it looks like now toward the end of the semester, and what options might be available to them going into the future?
Yeah. So we've done 2 sets of live auditions at this point, one in November and one in February. And that's where we've made the bulk of our scholarship offers. We're just now at the point where we're getting some people saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to a different institution, or I'm majoring in something different, or because of COVID-19 and everything, I'm taking a year off. And so we're getting some scholarship money back, not a lot, but some. And so there is potential that if you have not been awarded, if you audition this year and you have not been awarded a scholarship, there is the potential that you may be awarded a scholarship. But I think at this point, most of that money has been spent, if I'm just being frank.
Sure, yeah.
I think the good news is, and this is something we put into place a couple of years ago, is that when you come to WSU, what happens at the beginning of every year is we go through all the scholarship recipients and we go, well, this person changed majors, this person's not meeting the GPA requirement, this person didn't come back to school, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And we get a pool of money back every year. And so students are allowed to apply for what's called a supplemental scholarship. And sometimes it's a one-time award, sometimes it's a multiple-year award. It depends on what funds are available and what the faculty decide to do. But you can sort of advocate and say, hey, I really need some additional resources. And that's open to every student in the School of Music. So if you didn't get a scholarship this year, you have some opportunities to make the case for yourself and potentially get some new scholarship money, at least for a year, if not for a few years.
Great. Just for some clarification's sake, you did say there was that little bit of money that has come back that may yet go out to some new students. Does that include the students who have done the video auditions?
Yeah. Well, I think in most cases, yes.
Sure.
I can't imagine. I can't say definitively one way or the other, but
can we ever? In these times.
Yeah, in these unprecedented times.
Yes.
Yeah, I think students who audition by video are still eligible for a scholarship if scholarship money is available.
Great. Great. So at the beginning of the school year in the fall, there's a lot of things sort of happening all at once. One thing, well, three things really that come up for students are lockers, practice room keys, and sometimes even whole instruments that need to be borrowed. Can
Yeah.
you walk us through the processes for those three items?
Yeah. So let's assume that we'll be able to have some sort of
Right.
normal-ish kind of interaction
Right.
starting in the fall. Um, let's go through all three of those things. So the first is practice rooms, where hopefully as a music student you'll be spending a considerable amount of time of your life.
Yep.
One of the changes that I'm really happy to say we've made is that we used to charge a fee to use those practice rooms. Starting this next academic year, we won't be doing that anymore. So what you'll do is you'll come into the main School of Music office. There's a form we'll ask you to fill out. That form, the only thing we're going to ask is that it will, and I believe this is how it works, is that your student account is credited for $25, and that will be a deposit essentially. So when you return your key at the end of the year, that money is refunded to you. If you choose not to return the key at the end of the year, shame on you. I'll take your money.
Okay.
My hope is that we will be making practice rooms a lot more accessible to our students.
Sure.
And there shouldn't be a financial burden to the use of those practice rooms. We do, though, the reason we have a key, again, this goes back to my first statement, it's the safety of our students.
Sure.
And so we don't want, rapscallions coming into the practice rooms and just camping out. And we also want, the priority going to our music majors, because sometimes, there's people who are at the university who like always wanted to like play on a piano, and they just like want to wander in and start hitting the piano, and which is great. By the way, if you are someone who wishes you could play the piano, we do have lessons for non-majors.
That's true.
So you can actually be trained and given the proper tools to do that. But we want the priority of our practice rooms to go to our music majors. So that's practice rooms. And those are available fall and spring. And we do have a situation where they'll be we will charge you a fee to use them over the summer, but they'll be available. Unfortunately, not this summer.
Right. Yeah.
Lockers are slightly different. We have a limited amount of locker space. Mostly we try to reserve them for large instruments like tubas, bari saxes, string basses. We do have small instrument lockers as well, though. They're, again, just like the locker or the key checkout for a practice room, we have a similar thing for a locker. We ask you to fill out a form. This one we do charge a small fee. I think I can't remember if it's $25 or $50, but it's a small fee to use it for the year and to keep your stuff stored in. You get a little combination. We provide you with the lock. We provide you with the locker, and we have that. I will say, if you're a string bass player, we have a special room just for string basses, where there you're given a key, and all the string basses are in there, and there's even a little space for you to practice if you need to. And there may be even a couch in there to hang out in, but I can't remember.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then the third one was
Instruments.
Instruments, yeah. So we do have some instruments for checkout. We do not, and we should get some clarity on this. We don't charge a fee for that, but you have to sign sort of a release on that, a waiver on that, and basically saying you're liable for any damages or loss. But other than that, so we have all the odd instruments like violas and English horn, not viola. Viola's not an odd instrument. It's a pretty cool instrument. But like, English horns and
Alienated a quarter of our string section. No big deal.
I used to date a violist, so maybe that's just some subconscious bitterness there.
There you go.
But I do love violists. But like English horns and E-flat clarinets and alto clarinets, contrabassoon, we have those instruments. So those are available for checkout, as well as your more standard instruments like trumpets, trombones. I will tell you, if you are a member of Shocker Sound Machine, We have a bunch of new instruments that are Yamaha and System Blue. Again, you get as it being a member of the Sound Machine. So,
Well, as a segue into our next topic, can you tell us a little bit? Can you remind us what the Sound Machine is, and how you might audition to be a part of it this fall?
yeah. So, and we'll have, this is our sort of first in our series of Zoom sessions.
Brief.
So Lucas Hewlett, our director of athletic bands, will be doing a session in a few weeks where he'll go into more specifics. But we have basically an athletic band program that features two ensembles. One is called Shocker Sound, and there are, I think it's 39 people in their ensemble that sit in the stands and blast energy into Coke Arena to get the basketball team hyped. And
they're a pet band.
They're a pet band, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I call them a band experience, but pet band is fine. And then we have a different, a sort of a second ensemble connected to that called the Shocker Sound Machine, which is a marching ensemble. And they actually march in the basketball arena for a limited number of sort of half times during the season for men and women's basketball. I think they'd like to do volleyball, but that net just creates.
Yeah, the sousaphones might have trouble.
Yeah. And so if it's open right now, the Shocker Sound Pet Band is saxophones and brass and electric bass and drum set. Shocker Sound Machine is open to all wind instruments and drumline. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have a color guard.
Right.
I know there was some interest in that.
We do get a lot of questions about a color guard.
No color guard as of right now.
Yep.
Probably mostly because of the space issue. That could change in the future. And auditions for that will take place at the beginning of the fall semester. It's a simple, it's a two-part audition, and Lucas can correct anything that I've gotten wrong, but it's a musical audition and a movement audition. With that said, I want to just assuage anyone's fears. If you have never marched before, or you even have a physical limitation that doesn't allow you, you have limited mobility, there's still a place for you in the Shocker Sound Machine. So we are an accessible and open and welcoming organization to all musicians of all types, majors and non-majors. So it's a pretty exciting, and you get to go to basketball games for free.
Not a bad deal.
In fact, well, yeah, it's good times.
Yeah. And so those ensemble auditions you said take place pretty much right at the beginning of fall semester. And that's the same for every other ensemble we have?
It is the same-ish for all of our ensembles. For those of you who want to participate in a major ensemble as either a major or a non-major, there are auditions that will happen the week before classes start, usually on, I think, Thursday and Friday before classes start, as well as one day of auditions on Monday. I believe the Sound Machine has the pet band, athletic bands have a slightly different audition day process. I think they're a little later. Sure. And I think that's still sort of, that's gonna be changing this year as to its exact date. But for everyone else, so bands, choirs, orchestras, jazz band, their auditions will take place Thursday and Friday before classes start and the Monday of classes.
Great. I'm sure extra information will be coming to students in the future about how to sign up and expectations, things like that.
Yep.
Are you able to do both ensembles and things like extracurriculars if I want to be part of the improv troupe on campus, but also I want to be in band? Do those jive?
Yes, and there's my improv.
Oh, improv joke.
Absolutely. I won't sugarcoat it. Being a music major is a lot of work. It's a lot of time, spent honing your craft and developing your technique and abilities. But I don't know any major that's not a lot of work, to be quite frank. There's no such thing as an easy major. But with that said, I know, and this is one of the things, if you follow our Facebook page, we've been doing these interviews with our alumni,
Yeah.
and a couple of them have spoken to how important the non-music things were to their development as artists. And so I think that totally resonates with me. And I think it's really important to have sort of the spaces away from the School of Music that you can develop in other ways as a human being, because those will all come back and benefit you as a musician. So absolutely, there's opportunities for you to be involved in other university clubs that are not part of the School of Music, that have nothing to do with music. We have a lot of cool clubs in the university. There's esports, there's Dungeons and Dragons. There is an improv troupe. There's cool ones too.
Yeah. Really selling the university high here.
So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for that. And in fact, I will tell you, when we had KMEA this year in February, I was talking to a couple of our music students who are involved in some sororities and sororities specifically, that are not School of Music sororities. They're like, Delta, Delta, Delta.
Delta Gamma. Yep.
Yeah, and I was asking them about it, and one of the students said, it's so important for me to be in that sorority because I have a group of people who have nothing to do with what my career is or my major is. And so I just feel like I have this like moment in my day where I can be free from the pressures and of that place and just have something totally different. I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Sounds very healthy.
Yeah.
Well, just like we want non-majors to participate in our ensembles, we want our majors to go do something where they are the non-music non-majors.
And you'll be surprised at how much that comes back to impact you as an artist. I know one of the most sort of transformational classes I took as an undergrad were actually my history courses, my US history courses. And the teacher was so amazing. I took both sections we had like a US history from like 1400 to 1750 and then 1750 to present. And it was a dynamic class. It was an amazing class. But there were things I learned about there that actually made me go back and think about my pathway as a musician. And, there were even conversations about music and the arts, and you kind of learn, oh, this is what other students are thinking about this. And so it's really, you will be surprised at how those other kinds of things will come back to impact you as a creator.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I got to take a physics of sound course in my undergrad, and so that's why I know that echo circle should actually be called reverb circle. Exactly. Things such as that. So before we transition into our prospective student questions, would you encourage the incoming students to sort of get to know us a bit better on social media? Is that something that they can skip for now, or should they, check it out?
Yeah. So we have a Facebook page and we have Instagram. We do have Twitter. We're not quite as active on Twitter as maybe we could be or should be.
Yeah.
So I think the social media platforms are really great for a few things. For both prospective students, current students, and alumni, and parents too, because I know some parents are probably watching this.
Absolutely.
What we put on our social media, a couple of things. So I think it sort of falls into a couple of different categories. One is just announcements of concerts, which are really important to see. And then also sort of like student successes, and we like to highlight our student and faculty successes. So if you are a prospective student right now and you want to learn more about what our students have accomplished and our faculty have accomplished, social media is really good for that. This last 2 years ago, we started live streaming a fair amount of our concerts. Some of those live streams are still up and you can watch them. Also, we have a YouTube channel where you could go there to see highlights from past concerts. A third category is just fun stuff, funny memes and those kind of things. So if you need a little giggle, I think there's stuff there for that too.
I've started posting our pets, things like that.
The pets, that's important. And then something that we just started because of the COVID-19 thing, which I have found to be fascinating for me selfishly, is
Sure.
we started interviewing our alumni
Mm.
and just talking about, sort of a little bit why they chose WSU, but how they chose the path of being a musician or in that career, and
Mm.
what they've learned and those kind of things. And I think for anyone who is an aspiring professional, I think those are kind of interesting to watch, and I know they've been interesting for me as someone who is always still an aspiring professional.
Sure.
Uh,
And you're not talking about just professional musician, like straight up gigging musicians. You're also talking about like professional educators.
yeah, so we've had so far, like I said, we only started this about 4 weeks ago. We've
Right.
had two university professors, but who are both performing in orchestras or in Andrew Bishop's case, performing in jazz and live scenarios like that. Angela Parrish, who's like a singer-songwriter and a music producer.
Hmm.
Um, I guess we had three college professors. Kevin Bobo, who's a solo marimbist, teaches at Indiana University. Next week, we're going to be having an alumni, if we can get our schedules worked out, John Clare, who is actually a DJ for Sirius Classical. So he's not even, professionally making his living as a performing musician, but took
Right.
his music background and found, a pathway related to and making a career out of that.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm trying, and my hope is to get a couple of public school teachers on there as well.
Mm.
So just a variety of pathways and people.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about social media, for one last breath, I know the university is starting to really push a platform called Zeemee, Zeemee. It's where a lot of incoming students can meet one another, start having private, chats with one another, getting to figure out maybe even who you want your roommate to be. So I would really encourage any prospective student who's joining us this fall to check it out. I downloaded it. It was really simple on the App Store, Zeemee, Zeemee. Um, Switching over to prospective students who may still want to join us even this fall,
Yeah,
would you say it's too late to join us for fall at this point, fall 2020?
good question. I don't. So let's. I will say there's a difference between domestic and international students. So
Sure.
international students have a much harder deadline to which they have to apply uh,
Mm-hmm.
because of visas as well as financial proof that you need to provide. So, and those deadlines are mandated by the university and the international school. So, if you're an international
Sure.
student, I would recommend that you go to wichita.edu slash try international. I think that will get you where you need to.
Sure.
Otherwise, there's a search bar on wichita.edu and you can pull up the international school. And that'll have answers about deadlines. For prospective undergrads who are domestic students, we have the university has a very sort of wide open sort of enrollment time frame. So you can apply to the university still and still be accepted into the university. You still have to audition, and there are opportunities to still audition. Worst case scenario, what we've done for some students is if we aren't able to sort of hear you or in a scenario over the summer, if you come here in the fall, you're allowed to audition once you get here. So you're not a music major right when you start, but you can audition and then the code will be changed over. What I would recommend to get more information about that is if you go to wichita.edu/music and go to our faculty listings, you can see the heads of each area there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would contact the head of that area personally and say, hi, my name is so and so. I have not auditioned at this point, but I'm hoping to be a freshman at WSU in the fall. Is it too late to audition, or what would the audition process be? And each area then can tell you about what it would look like and what the possibilities could be. Uh,
Sure.
so I guess without guarantees, I would say it's never too late to be a music major. And we do have lots of students, for instance, who start at WSU under one major, like engineering, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, and find that they have no passion for it at all. And they audition for the School of Music and we flip them over.
Sure. Yeah. Even the students who are perhaps finishing up their time at community college wanting to come, they should probably follow the same
Yes.
path that you just suggested. Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so can you, I don't know, this is a big question. I was about to say briefly, but it doesn't feel like there's a brief answer. Um, what kind of students go to Wichita State? It should, like, if I'm a prospective music student, should I look at Wichita State?
Yeah. Well, the answer is the best students go to Wichita State.
Well, yeah.
My favorite students go to
Answer done. Click next. Yeah.
It's a really good question. So this is actually one of the things I talk about a lot, and clearly it's gotten harder because of COVID-19.
Right.
But I stress to incoming students or potential students or anyone who's even any student who's thinking about being a music major anywhere, whether it's our school or not, is that the number one factor, deciding factor for I think for a student should be, does this feel like the right fit for me? And that is a bit of a nebulous set of criteria, right? Like, you know, it's to use my fit metaphor, I'm going to use pants. You know, just because it says the waist size, we all know the waist size is a number, but not every 38 feels the same. And sometimes you get a 38 waist and you go, this is the pair of pants for me. And so it's about, is this the right fit? And that fit is based on partly who your private teacher is going to be. And so, because if you think about your private teacher, you're going to have a daily, or no, it's not a daily, a weekly interaction with them for sure, if for the next 4 to 5 years of your life, if not daily interactions with them. So you've got to feel like you've got a good relationship with them. And then it's a question of the other students there. Do you feel like you belong as a part of those students? So to get a little bit at the question you were asking, what kind of students do we have? I think we've got an incredibly diverse population of students. So you've got students who are from the Midwest, and you have students who are from all over the world. You know, as far as Malaysia, Taiwan, Mexico, California, New York, and the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas. You know, so they're from all over. We have students who are first generation college students, you know, experiencing this for the first time. And we have students who have come from a family of college educated students and know a little more what college looks like. We have students who have been taking private lessons since they were 5, and we have students who have been taking private lessons since they first started at college. You know, so it's a really, in a great way, a really diverse pool of students from different backgrounds, from different experiences. I really do feel like there's a, if you're a potential student, my hope is that you'll find a place for you here, that it will feel comfortable in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to be a superstar to be a music major. And in fact, one thing I really want to stress, and actually going back to those interviews that I've been doing with alumni, Angela Parrish and I were talking about this, that there are some students who just come in who are super talented, right? They just have that natural ability. Talent and natural ability is in no way an indicator of what your success in this industry is going to be. In fact, oftentimes it's not, because that talent and success will only get you so far. Eventually, at the end of the day, it's how much time and effort you're willing to put into developing your craft. And so if you're a student who's like never had private lessons, for instance, will you be behind other students when you come in? Potentially. Does that mean that you're doomed forever? Absolutely not. And one of the things that I love about our faculty is they can truly take a student at any level and make them better. And I think that's really important. And you will grow as a musician, whether you're one of the elites or one of the beginners. I know as a college student, I was way behind in my technical ability compared to my colleagues. I'm a bass player. I never took bass lessons until I got to everything I learned about playing the upright bass was self-taught until I started college. So I was way behind my colleagues. Now, I was also sort of naturally curious and learned a lot about music theory and history on my own in high school. So I was one of the best performing theory students and one of the worst performing bass students. But you know what? I just spent time in the practice room and I got better. And by the time I graduated, I was the principal bassist in the orchestra. Um, and, you know, and so again, I think, you know, your ability is, first off, it's the quality of teacher that you get. And I think we've got really quality teachers. Um, but it's also about the time and effort you put into it. So uh, I think that maybe answers your question in a very big picture
Oh,
way.
yeah, absolutely.
The
That's
last thing I do want to say about our student body that always impresses me is how compassionate they are as human beings.
mm,
Uh, I'm always sort of impressed about sort of how hardworking they are, but also just how kind they are to each other. Um, you know, I don't know, they're not millennials anymore. What are they? Gen Y or Gen Z or Gen
the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're rapping, oh, they're lazy or whatever. Like, I don't see that in any of our students. I've never seen that in our students.
Yeah.
They're some of the hardest working, compassionate people I've met. So, um, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of those students and potentially prospective students, since you're able to see the comment feed, I
Yeah.
assume, and not me, have we received any questions up to
Uh,
this point?
no questions at this time. We've gotten some comments.
Oh,
Matthew Schwan commented that he loves this place and you should join the Shocker family.
there you go.
Our current music history
$5 to him.
Our current music history professor, Amani Mosley, stated that I am a nerd because I loved theory and history in high school.
I
And
mean,
she was not wrong.
yeah, you got doctor in front of your name. I mean, that's nerd
Right.
sign, right?
But remember,
Yeah,
not the kind that helps people.
that's right. Do not turn to me in an emergency.
I will tell you, I'm going to just tell the story very quickly.
Yeah, of course.
I flew when I did my doctoral defense. I went to the Hart School of Music for my doctorate, which is in Connecticut. And at the time, I was teaching in Washington. So I flew from Washington to Connecticut to do my defense, which is a part of the doctoral experience, right? So you're in this room with your committee, and they ask all sorts of questions, and you know they send you out, and then they come back and they say, "Congratulations, doctor." Hopefully, and they did that for me. It was great. So,
Yeah.
you know, I went out, celebrated. The next morning, I got on a plane. I was flying back across country to Washington State, and a passenger stood up and passed out and hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And they went over the mic and said, "Is there a doctor on the plane?"
Oh,
And the
no.
first reaction was, "Well, yes, now there is." But
Yeah, no.
luckily, and this is crazy, there was a whole convention of like a medical convention happening, and so there were like 8 doctors on the phone.
Dang, that
There
dude got
were so
lucky.
many doctors that they all rushed up that like 4 of them were like, "You've got this," and they went
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So,
There's only so much space in those aisles. I
so
mean,
the only thing my doctor would allow, I said, if there was a requiem mass that needed to be written in memory, I did that.
quick, we need this sonata analyzed. Is there a doctor on the plane?
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than that, no, it's not a very helpful doctor.
Well, helpful in its own ways.
That's right.
You know, not in a collapsed person sort of way. Okay, well, I mean, I've always got more questions. So falling back into that prospective student sort of thing, obviously we are living in unique, challenging, you know, however, whatever adjective you want times. What do campus visits look like? How can I get more info? How can I meet people? What path should I take to get more information right
Yeah.
now when I can't travel?
So I do know that our admissions have worked out a series of virtual campus visits.
Okay.
And so you know, Jesse, you can correct me on steps if you think if you got a better suggestion. But I think starting with admissions is always good, and they'll sort of work you out to the people that you need to speak with. When you do a virtual visit, it will be, I think you'll meet with with you actually, Jesse. Is that true, or is that not been...
I think that's a little bit further down the line. I think these virtual visits are a little bit more surface level.
Okay. So yeah, so I know they'll give you like a virtual tour of the campus, they talk a little bit about the program. And then what they will do with those virtual visits is they'll connect you to the sort of applied instructor that makes sense.
Yeah.
They'll definitely reach out to me, and I think they reach out to you as well.
Yep.
And usually what we do is we let the applied instructor or the head of your area will get back in touch with that virtual student and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Do you want to set up a time to meet? And so that's been a great way of sort of staying connected and being able to visit the campus sort of virtually. And, you know, I know that some of our areas, for instance, the voice area has been doing sort of a phone tree and calling in and calling the students who have auditioned for it and just checking in and seeing how they're doing and answering.
Great.
And so I will say one thing, I don't know if it's unique to our school, but one of the things that I'm proud of about our school is that our faculty are very accessible and available to our students. And so if you're a prospective student who's interested in learning more, reach out, go onto our faculty list and send an email, and our faculty are about responding. I would also just encourage prospective students to reach out specifically to Jesse Koza. Jesse, his email, Jesse, Jesse, period, Koza, Koza, at wichita.edu.
The boss can spell my name.
Right.
Oh my God, that means I'm in trouble a lot.
That's right, Jack.
Yeah.
So Jesse can answer a lot of questions as well, sort of big picture questions about the program. Well, so I think reaching out to the instructors and the faculty, and reaching out to Jesse, reaching out to me are all good ways to sort of be connected to the school.
Who would have thought? We're all kind of human. We're not just the instruments that we use.
That's right.
Yeah. So a big concern, especially in these times, you know, with the economy heading in the direction it is cost of college. Can you speak to Wichita State's cost, what it looks like, maybe in comparison to other similar schools? Yeah.
So first off, I don't want to minimize the expense that college is. And it has only gotten more expensive as time has gone on, because that's how inflation and time works. So with that said, I don't think there's a college education that's cheap anymore. I don't know that exists.
Sure.
With that said, if you do a cost comparison to our university to other research universities, which is the category of university we are one of the most cost-effective research universities in the country. And so even though we are expensive, because all college is expensive, we are incredibly affordable to our students, especially if you are an in-state student or reside in what's called a shocker city. So shocker cities are like Houston, Dallas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Denver, Colorado. I think going all the way up to
St. Louis.
Yeah. And then we have what's called the Midwest Exchange, which also gives us discounts. Right. And there's a lot of different ways to get sort of a discounted tuition. So I believe, and this is just a very loose estimate, the average cost of our tuition and fees for a student who's paying in-state tuition is between like $8,000 and $10,000 for a full-time undergraduate student.
Sure.
So, is that cheap? Not on your not on your life. But as someone who taught at a doctoral program where the annual tuition was $50,000 a year.
Right.
You know, we're talking about a fraction of that. And what's amazing to me is that with a tuition so low, the quality of education is so high.
Right.
And that's I think really important.
It's when you get into value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, so we are very affordable compared to most universities around the country. And then if you were fortunate enough to get a merit scholarship or a music scholarship, of course, that cost just goes down from there.
Sure. Yeah. And those scholarships do stack as
Yes.
well. Yes, it's not
So
one or the other.
that's right. If you've received a merit scholarship from the university and a School of Music scholarship, those stack. And or if you've gotten a third scholarship from another department or another organization, that adds on top of that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so uh, it's well, I think in this day and age, it's hard to say that you can walk out of college debt free. Um, you can walk out with a much lower rate of debt compared to a lot of other universities. And if anything that I've learned, one of the things that sometimes, not to diminish, the Harvards and Yales of the world, which have amazing, they have amazing.
Whatever.
I don't want to diminish
Yeah.
the amazing faculty of those universities because I know some of them and they are incredible. Um, One of the myths out there is that somehow your career can only be defined on if you go to one of those Ivy League schools or those Ivy League conservatories. But if anything, if you look at what our alumni have done, boy, that's not true. I mean, our alumni have performed at the Met. They have won Grammys. They have, performed. They're members of the New York Philharmonic. They're teaching at major universities. Our alumni are everywhere,
Yeah.
and they are doing amazing things. And so, and they come from Wichita State. They're not. It's not Juilliard.
Humble beginnings.
That's right. So don't get wrapped up into this mentality that the only way you can have the highest level of musical careers if you go to Juilliard, because it's just not true. Again, it comes down to the work that you do as a student. You can get a Juilliard level education at Wichita State if you apply yourself as a student to that level of education. And you know what? There are students at Juilliard who are not getting a Juilliard level of education because they're not applying themselves. So
we actually did get a question from the thing. It's how will WSU adapt to the needs of those that had planned on graduating within the next semester during this pandemic? So
I would say very much like this.
oh, this is fine. We're fine.
I think the important thing, I think Matthew Schwann asked that question. I wish there's not a clear answer because this all changes based on the minute. But the faculty is having constant conversations. In fact, literally right up to the start of this, we were in a faculty meeting. We were talking about what next semester is going to look like and trying to prepare for that. So I think we're adapting in a way of recognizing what the limitations are going to be and what the possibilities are going to be, trying to, again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, is keeping our faculty and students as safe as possible. I think the other thing that I really want to stress, with the COVID-19, going back to our very first topic, while this feels all-encompassing right now, and every moment of our life is taken up with how we interact with COVID-19, this is just a moment in our history, and that a vaccine and a treatment is on the horizon. It's not, I mean, is it going to be 3 months from now? Most likely not. But is it going to happen in 2021? I think all signs are yes. Hopefully, 2022, I think absolutely. So while I know that this feels like our world right now, this will be a moment in time. Elizabeth Simpson did just ask a question. She's planning on minoring in music, and do you need to audition for that? The answer to that is if you're minoring in music, you do not need to
Yeah.
audition.
Mm-mm.
And we would totally welcome you to that. I
Mhm.
will say though, Elizabeth, if you are thinking about minoring in music, I might recommend, we're not allowed, we don't have any scholarship money for minors or for non-majors at this time. So one thing you may want to consider is auditioning to being a double major, a music major, as well as a second major, which would then make you eligible for potentially for scholarships. And then the curriculum of a music minor is very much in line with what the first 2 years of being a music major looks like anyway. And so if you go this double major route, at the end of your second year, you can sort of make a decision saying, you know what, this was really difficult. I don't think that I want to try double majoring. And you can drop the music major and still get the minor and then go on. Or you can go, this was actually more possible than I thought it would be, and go all the way through and end up double majoring.
Oh,
And in fact, sorry, I was just
no, I believe you were about to go into what I was about to say, so you go ahead.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
Having a music major and not having a career in music actually still does you a great benefit, because a lot of the companies are looking to hire people that have creative backgrounds, not necessarily because they want you to be their creative person, but because they know that the skill set that you developed being a music major, like teamwork, like the ability to fail and recover quickly, um, all of those skills are what they want in their own company. And so there's actually a really interesting article the Washington Post did a few years ago about how Google was hiring specifically people with creative backgrounds, not just to do their creative work, but to do all elements of their work because of all the success they were seeing with that. So having a major in music, even if that's not the career path you're going into, can actually still be really beneficial. So.
Absolutely. What I was going to add is that we actually have one of our degree paths I sometimes describe as our minor, like a buff minor. It goes to the gym every couple of weeks, a swole minor, if you will. The BA in music is
Yeah.
not a lot more than the minor. And so it's a very completable degree as a double major.
Yeah. So if you were going to major BA or above, that would need an audition. Minors don't need an audition to get to your question specifically, Elizabeth.
Right.
But some
So you said, as we're wrapping up here, you did mention that we're unable to offer scholarships to non-majors and to people who just do ensemble or to minors. Are there any ways in the School of Music to sort of earn a little bit of money as a non-major?
Yeah. I think there are two ways primarily, let's just say two. Primarily in the School of Music that you can have. One is, as of this time, there is some financial support for people who participate in the athletic bands. It's a modest stipend. I don't believe that is changing for next year. I think the only thing that would change that, quite frankly, is if we have athletic events at all.
Sure.
But that would be temporary. We have this group called Performance Facilities, which staff a lot of our concerts with ticket office and ushering and those kind of things. And they are really great about hiring our School of Music students to help work there. So they always seem to be hiring some student workers for that. Occasionally, we do have our own student workers in the music office, and you can apply for that. That may be cutting down next year. Again, health and safety issues being primarily focused there. I do know that the university, though, has quite a bit of on-campus employment for students. In fact, a fun fact, the largest employee group at the university is not faculty, it is not even staff, it is student workers. They make up the largest proportion of our campus employees.
Hey,
It's a fact that I was told a year ago that I still believe is true, but I could be wrong. Uh,
so fear them is what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the website that offer I and maybe just if I'm wrong on this, um, the website that posts a lot of student work is Handshake.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Handshake.com, so you can look for work there. And so for instance, there are like places that do tutoring. Oh, the library, the music library is another place where we hire. That's
Oh,
not a school of music, but the library system will hire music students often to work in our music library. So
mhm.
yeah, there's some employment opportunities there.
Wonderful. Well, Alex, I want to thank you very much for your time today as we just gave this very fast overview of the School of Music. Correct me if I'm wrong. Thursday at noon, we're going to be talking about the music education track.
I believe you are correct.
Great.
Let me
Uh,
verify in my calendar.
So any incoming or prospective students who may be interested in music education, or if you're not one of those people and you still just want to learn more and see more and you're bored at Thursday at noon and want to hang out, we'll be here.
Yeah.
But for now, again, Alex, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you everybody who watched and commented and asked questions, and we will see you on Thursday.
See you on Thursday.